Welcome back. This is Jeff, and it's time to go low right here on AM 820, the Big 8 in Tampa. We are very thankful for our listening audience and appreciate you guys very much. I know many of you are probably teeing it up right now, Saturday morning at 8 a.m., but hopefully you catch us on our YouTube channel. You can go to golfersunite.com and click on the homepage, and you can get access to all these great episodes that we've been doing right here on the Big 8 AM 820. This episode is brought to you by Golfers Unite, golfersunite.com. If you want to check us out, you can become a free member and get access to 4 great brand deals. And if you want to be a paid member for only $30, you can get access to 14 more brand deals. You know, a very simple, easy way to save some money right here at golfersunite.com. Today, our special guest is Emily Nowak. Emily and I work together and here at Golfers Unite. But Emily has a lot of experience in working at clubs that host events. And so I thought with the U.S. Open going on right now, some of our listeners would maybe like to hear some behind the scenes stories of what happens when they put on a large event like this. The vibe, preparation, what have you. So Emily, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yep, I'm happy to be here again with you. Thanks for having me.
So Emily, as we kind of are sitting here now, the U.S. Open's getting ready to kick off. They do a tremendous amount of planning, organization, from, meeting with the powers to be at the USGA, to sponsors, to the club people, staffing up and all that stuff. So you've been a part of that. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how far in advance do they start doing these talks, and maybe some experience that you had in helping prepare for it.
Yeah, so things do start pretty early. Even with the course kind of closing down to membership or the public, that's going to be about 3 weeks in advance, and then about a week out, the USGA or whoever's hosting the event just completely takes over. And that is where they're having as many conversations with the staff as possible, telling them where they can and can't go in the clubhouse, telling them security issues, where you can park, how you're eating, how you're kind of operating in the club that you're usually used to being yours, but you kind of have to give that club away at a certain point. So it kind of isn't yours anymore. But yeah, I would say about 3 to 4 weeks out is when that gets really serious.
So, I'm involved in the Valspar as a copperhead as well. So I talk with Tracy West, and she's the executive director, and so she gave me some insights in regards to the planning, especially one that is an annual one. Like, it's a little bit different because you look at the U.S. Open, it changes location. So it's almost, it's not, rinse and repeat. It is a whole new venue, a whole new thing. You get those larger stage majors that move around to different clubs. We're talking with Emily Nowak, and this is Jeff from Golfers Unite. You're listening to the Let's Go Low show right here on AM 820, and we appreciate your time and tuning in. Emily, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? I know you went to school for this, and maybe in when you're at one of your classes, they kind of talk about event management.
Yeah, that was definitely one of our courses, and interesting enough, as we're kind of going through these classes, they're preparing us for, you are going to be the people at Augusta eventually, being either the head pro, the director of golf. Kind of my program has the best placement, kind of the original program, and eventually a Fair State alum usually ends up at one of these huge venues, working full time. So they kind of prepare you for that. A lot of what goes in the behind the scenes, confidentiality, things like that. So they really start preparing you for that early. But yeah, I would say that we do get ready to be a part of a big situation like this in school. And one of our professor is actually the number one rules official in golf. So he kind of had some great insight into these major events and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely something they prepare us for in case we end up working in it at some point or working at the facility full time. A lot of my classmates, even if they don't work at these facilities, they'll kind of take a month or two off and go work the US Open or work the Masters, things like that. So,
Yeah, they
especially
kind of ramp up, right? I mean, a lot of times, these like the USGA and Shinnecock, I was watching the Golf Channel earlier, and their normal staff is I think he said 76,
yeah,
but they have over 300 right now there.
yeah,
So, I mean, you can kind of see the ramp up. So some of your classmates might be one of those people that kind of like the traveling nurse. They come in like at big
that's,
events and they go
yep,
to big events, when they need them to get going.
that's exactly what it is. And every Tuesday we'd meet for a PGM meeting. And as I got closer to these events, if you were going to an area on internship near US Open, PGA Championship, they kind of recruit you. And they kind of want you to come in, do a contract with them for a couple months. So that's kind of where they get the staff from. They have either PGM students, other PGA professionals that are able to take that time off. So yeah, they're really good at staffing them. They have specific staffing departments like amongst the USGA to kind of get these people in.
Yeah, you mentioned something that's kind of interesting. This is Jeff Stanislow. You're listening to the Let's Go Low show right here on AM 820 every Saturday morning at 8. Also get to listen to Mike Hicks, Payne Stewart's former caddy, doing the caddy corner usually most Saturdays with us. Today we're talking with Emily Nowak. Emily is a part of my team at Golfers Unite, which brings you this radio show, golfersunite.com. If you guys check it out, we appreciate your support. Emily, you brought up something kind of interesting that one of your professors was like the number one rules guy for, the PGA or whatever it was. But, what's interesting about that is, once you start peeling back the layers of a major event and identifying everything that kind of needs to happen, you bring up like, someone's got to, do all the rules. So someone from the USGA who heads up the rules person has to come in, and they probably come in real early and they map out the course, and then they have to line it, what's going to be white, what's going to be yellow, what's going to be red. And then, they have to ascertain any local rules that like maybe Shinnecock might have. So this is probably a couple months in preparation alone. And then you kind of have like, the course becomes a mini city,
Yeah, for
So
sure.
you have your facilities managers, you have, operations, because they got to build grandstands, they got to do, merch tents, they got to, build media towers and all that different types of stuff. And so like, just putting on an event is, all fine and dandy, but it is a pretty big business. And you bring up a good point about, peeling back the onion. Now you were involved in, some stuff. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about, I know you said you worked on a, web.com event at one of your places. Maybe just tell us a little bit about, how that went and, what it was and, what
Yes.
part did you play?
Yeah, so I was an intern at the Ivanhoe Club from 2017 to 2018, and we hosted the Rust-Oleum, and I believe they hosted it for like 10 years. So it was the same venue. They came back time and time again because the Rust-Oleum CEO was actually a member at our club, so he kind of got that as the
That's
hosting.
helpful.
Yeah, no,
That's
it was
helpful to
awesome. Yeah,
bring a tournament to you.
yeah, it was nice. It was nice having a member there. He knows everything that goes on, especially with hosting it for 10 or 12 years. They kind of had that thing figured out. We didn't have to shut down the club too early. They were pretty good at working around the membership. It wasn't a huge membership, but yeah, it was a lot of talks. So I was an intern and I actually lived in the clubhouse during the
You
event.
lived in the clubhouse?
Yep, I lived upstairs. There were 4 bedrooms upstairs. So
Wow.
I had a beautiful view over the golf course every night when the sun would set. It was amazing. But there were certain, like I had to be out of my room at a certain point and I couldn't go back in for a certain amount of time until the players were mostly off the property. So that's kind of where those like security talks came in. The web.com crew was in there about 2 weeks before, just kind of, they put kind of caution tape signs everywhere around the clubhouse so people knew where they could and couldn't go, especially with the membership still playing the course. But yeah, it's very different because you have the membership that has free tickets, but they can't come into the clubhouse. They can't access their locker room. So you kind of, it's a weird feeling to be like, no, you're not allowed in when all you're used to saying is yes to them.
Right.
So it's a very interesting experience. And kind of the biggest thing that I think of now after every golf tournament is, wow, that golf course must be torn up from those grandstands. And that's really not something you see, but the superintendent staff has to work overtime to get that golf course back into playable condition. They beat the rough down. There's all the spots where everybody was walking. So it's pretty much not the same golf course by the time it's returned to you. But it's very interesting. And then usually on that Monday, the staff you gets to go out and play the course in the tournament position or condition. So I'm sure the Shinnecock staff, all 300 of them, probably are offered the opportunity to play after the event. And that's kind of just a huge bonus on top of everything.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You're listening to Emily Nowak. Emily is a PGA guru, schooled in Michigan and went to the professional golf management school at Ferris State. It's been part of large tournaments, web.com, and many others. We're just talking about like behind the scenes things that might be going on in the US Open right now. You know, it's moving day to day when you're listening to us. And our next segment, Emily and I are going to kind of go over our picks and who we think is going to win. So be sure to tune in to our next segment for that. But Emily, there's a lot of curveballs in doing a big event. You know, probably the biggest one I would think about is weather, right? I mean, you're not in control if a front comes through or delays and what have you. So I'd imagine there's got to be a lot of contingency plans being done for weather delays, and then even cancellations of a round and finishing up on Monday. It's been a little while since since we've had a Monday finish.
It really has been, yeah.
Thankfully, knock on wood, we're all happy about that, especially the people that love watching the finishes on Sunday afternoon and have to work on Monday, and if it gets delayed, can't watch it on Monday. But what were some of the things that maybe you kind of experienced in regards to some weather conditions when planning for an event, and what do they do? I'd imagine everything just gets pushed back.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And kind of the stress there is if there's weather, that's one more day that the membership has without the course. Or God forbid it's like Pebble Beach. They have those tee times booked out years in advance probably, and everything kind of has to get pushed back an entire day. So a private course is a little bit easier because it's a membership you're dealing with. But if, say, the US Open is at a public course, now the cleanup is pushed back a day. You can't get people on the golf course for an entire extra day. So it really just throws a wrench in the plans, but there's really not anything you can do with it. Like you just literally have to pick everything up and move it back a day, like you said.
Right.
Not really much you can do about it, unfortunately.
So we're talking with Emily Nowak. Emily is part of my team here at Golfers Unite. This radio show, Let's Go Low, is hosted by me, Jeff Stanislaw, and brought to you by Golfers Unite. You guys get a chance, check out golfersunite.com. It's a online community where you can get a free membership or a paid membership and get access to great brand deals from club manufacturer like Tacoma, golf ball manufacturer like Seed. We have deals like for pinned golf and Sunday golf for golf bags. So check out golfersunite.com if you're a golfer and you want to get access to some deals. Emily, we're talking behind the scenes of event planning, so there's actually the event, and maybe let's pivot a little bit to what happens after the event. I know you mentioned something about, hey, the team gets to go play, on the Monday after and get to enjoy it and unwind. But, what types of things happen after an event, that maybe our listening audience might not know about?
Yeah, so actually the funniest thing that I remember is just how much merch we had left over, how much merch we had that said Rust-Oleum 2017, and you now have to find something to do with your boxes and boxes of merch that are left over. So I would imagine it's the same thing with kind of the US Open. They you're kind of left with whatever's left over from the tournament in general. So you'll have junk on the golf courses, you'll have random pipes that were left. You'll have muddy fairways, muddy rough. But yeah, I just mostly remember having boxes and boxes of merch left over
Boxes and boxes and boxes.
and
Yeah,
having to figure out how to give it away too.
this year after the Valspar, a few days later, I had to go get something. And I went into their offices, and I can attest there is boxes and boxes of different stuff and signs and
Yep.
merchandise and things all over the place at that thing. I was like, man, how do you guys even work in here? It's like, well, we got to get it all in, and then we go figure it out, over
Yeah.
time. Emily Nowak from Golfers Unite joining us, talking about the U.S. Open. One big thing that I wanted to talk about, and maybe, your club at theweb.com probably didn't have as big as economic impact, but, the U.S. Open does.
Mhm.
And, in 2022, it was reported that it was about $175 million worth of economic impact, to Boston. And then, in the New York, in Torrey Pines, about 150 million when they hosted the US Open. So there's some big money behind this thing. This isn't just, that's why they get the TV contracts. That's why, they get the coverage, and, those things are all part of it. It's just the economic impact for one city for one week's time that golf brings to them. Do you have any insight on the economic impact of maybe the club that you mentioned for the web.com?
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, it was just the jobs it provided for kind of that 2 week period. We did have some locals come in, help sell some merch, help with food, all that kinds of stuff. So I think, yeah, I mean, it definitely gave some people jobs.
Travel too. I mean, your hotels are full for the
Yeah,
players,
yeah,
Airbnbs, all the support staff that comes into it. So
yeah, and it was a smaller town, Mundelein, Illinois, and yeah, definitely people did. I mean, it's a web.com event, so you don't expect people to be like coming in from all
local
around
people
for it, but they,
mostly. Yeah.
yeah, but it was. I mean, it's a really good turnout. Rough was
Not too
full of
many
people.
private jets flying in for the weekend
No,
and at the
no,
web.com tour,
just to
but
drive up from Chicago or something like that. But
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was a pretty big crowd. I was actually impressed, and it was awesome. Just like, I mean, it was a club I was proud of. I love that club so much. So just seeing how many people were on property and just
What
like
was the club
appreciating.
again?
It's called the Ivanhoe Club.
The
It's
Ivanhoe
about,
Club.
yep, it's about 45 minutes north of Chicago.
Okay.
We had some pretty big members. We had a lot of Bears players. Patrick Manley was a member there. So
Okay.
a really good like low key club for people wanting to get away from the city a little
Yeah.
bit.
Great golf in Chicago. That's for
Oh
sure.
yes, yes. It is very it's different than it's soft like Michigan, but like the layouts are so different. I like kind of the city courses, kind of
Right.
tucked in where they don't belong. But yeah, I mean, it was an awesome experience kind of seeing the club booming with people who don't usually get to appreciate it. And it was absolutely gorgeous. So it was really cool just seeing everybody appreciating it.
Well, Emily Nowak, thanks for joining us here on the Let's Go Low show. We're going to come back after this, and we're going to talk about our predictions for the U.S. Open at Shinnecock. So again, this is Jeff Stanislow from Golfers Unite. We appreciate you tuning in to the Let's Go Low show here, right here on AM 820 in the great Tampa Bay area.